It's about 5 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock in the morning time. Good morning to you, Grenada, Kankupidi, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of To The Point for today, the 7th day of the month of January. It's a pleasure being here with you. I'm Joseph Cadore, and I'm here to take you through the next hour. I want to say good morning again and welcome to those of you that's joining us via television. That's GBN's Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20 if you're on cable. If you're following us via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd, via our Facebook page or YouTube channel, we say good morning to you. And we know, certainly remind you that once the conversation starts, you can post your questions and comments on those different portals. The number in studio, 435-2041, or you can post it via the WhatsApp portal, which is the same as the studio number, 435-2041. This morning we'll be talking about the population housing, the census that started last year, and it's an exercise that continues. Of course, was punctuated because of COVID. And this morning, to continue with the conversation and to bring us up to date and up to speed, and my guest this morning is the Director of Statistics in the Ministry of Finance, Harlim Brizan, and his Systems Administrator, Kishi Logie. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Joseph, and pleasant morning to all listeners and viewers. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Logie. Gentlemen, we're going to delve straight into it because you're always not going to do justice. So we're going to first start the premise of the conversation, Harlim, by you, in a nice succinct way, a census. What is a census and why a census? What is it and why?
Okay. Yes, a very important question for the understanding of the public. Population and housing census is the total process of collecting, compiling, analyzing, disseminating, publishing statistical data pertaining to all persons and all households in a country at a specified time. And it is actually the largest and most comprehensive statistical undertaking of any national statistical office, right? The census targets usual residents of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So the type of census we're doing is called a de jure census, which targets usual residents of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And the usual residents includes non-institutional population living in private dwellings, also institutional population living in institutions, for example, the homes, the prisons, and other facilities, and also the homeless population. We do make provision to count the homeless population. There's a particular methodology in doing that. The census is important because it is the number one planning tool for a country, right? A census is done every 10 years, and this is the only time we'll get information on the entire population. And the census can go down to the smallest geographic level in terms of dissemination, which is the community level or the enumeration district level. And that is so important, especially when you're thinking about sustainable development and leaving no one behind, and also building resilience. Because an important aspect of this census is also the location of persons. We have incorporated GIS, Geographic Information Systems, into this census so that we can get a sense as to where persons are located and to assess risk in terms of disaster and in terms of disaster planning and so. Right? So we provide, the census will provide a wide range of information, not just for the government, but for a number of stakeholders, including the private sector, students, researchers, the churches, the media, right? And all aspects of government use the data from the census. And all concerned citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique have a stake in this activity, because I always say that the voice of the people, and it is the only time when we try to capture information on everyone, so everyone has an equal say in the development process.
I would assume, Harlim, that an exercise that takes place every 10 years, that each cycle comes with its own unique challenges. What are some of those challenges that has been brought on by this current census? And we know there was COVID, but were there any other unique elements that was brought to the fore in as you attempt to conduct this current census, in terms of trends, societal trends, and everything else?
Okay. Well, COVID is our major challenges, and it brought on other challenges, right? And we had to be very flexible when planning and putting a lot of contingencies in place. Well, this census is the first, has many firsts, and one is the first time we're doing the census in the midst of a pandemic, right? The first, it is also the first paperless or digital census. And that created some minor challenge, which my colleague can speak to, in terms of person's ability to use the platform, because people, most persons who would have done the census previously, it was paper based, right?
Right.
So you didn't have to go out and use a device, right? But in terms of the challenges of COVID, we planned a training, a dual mode training with both virtual and physical. And the physical was supposed to be very practical and very necessary. But because of the COVID situation, we had to do the entire training virtually. So you could imagine the challenges that created. And also the environment we're in, persons have to be protected. And there is the requirement that our field staff, and that came after training, that and after the spike in COVID, that all our field staff should be vaccinated. So that created a problem in terms of the attrition of staff, and as a result, we had to train a next batch of persons who are vaccinated, and we are in the process of assessing them and doing some final training in preparation for sending them out. So our census, the approach in undertaking this census was a staggered approach, that we let some persons to start, and then after others will start. In fact, we have not even started Carriacou and PT Martinique as yet.
Right.
So which we intend to start in the new year.
Is this the first time?
Year.
Is this the first time? Because I'm ready to get ready to branch off to your systems, your Mr. Logie. Is this the first time that you've taken a digital approach to the census?
Yes, the very first time.
The first time.
You know, and it has so many benefits of doing that, which my colleague could speak to, right? But yet there are still some challenges, some teething issues that we'd have to that we normally have to sort out.
I'm going to go over to Mr. Logie now, but Harlim, while I'm speaking with him, there's a light source that keeps coming on and off. It keeps and it's interfering in the background. It seems to be coming and going. I'm not sure where it's coming from. It's okay now.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure if it's a light that's probably flickering on and off, or no. Okay, but it's okay now. But it seems like okay, fine. Mr. Logie, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Let's talk about your role in the midst of this national exercise, and put it into perspective. How important is it? And so let's talk about getting the job done first and foremost, and this being the first time that the census has been done via a digital platform.
So what my role is basically ensuring that the persons who are going out to do the data collection, they can do so in a manner that is reliable, that they have little to no issues, and that the persons that they're collecting the information from, they feel that the system that they are giving the information into is trustworthy, is reliable.
So take me through a process from an IT perspective. Exactly how that engagement occurs, and then we will, if we can, look at the background application in terms of the security, because persons, there's always a question of how secure is my information. So let's take us through the daily process.
So what we do, we create. At the administrative level, there is we would have broken the country up into the parishes, and in the parishes we have we have enumeration districts that we have for each enumerator to work in. So we would do assignments for the buildings within that enumeration district, and the person is to interview the households within that enumeration district to gather all of the information. So from that assignment, the data is collected by the interviewer and sent in to the supervisor platform, where the data is reviewed by the supervisors. Then it is reviewed by the IT team, the data processing team, and from that we can produce our initial reports and data and so on.
That initial data collection process, is it entered directly on site via a digital device, or is it captured in paper base and then transferred, or is it a digital process that's right on site?
So the digital process starts immediately. The enumerator collects the information into the tablet. Right. What we wanted to avoid compared to 10 years ago was doing that. 10 years ago, that is basically what we did. We collected the information on paper and then digitized it. This time we went the route of completely digital. So the enumerator would collect the information in the tablets, and it can be sent in immediately, and within a day or two from that. That is one of the advantages of the system, that information can be collected today, and within a day or so, we can have a report, we can have an idea of what is happening in the field in a much faster time. So you have a faster turnover in terms of what is happening in the field in terms of data compared to what we had 10 years ago.
Are you satisfied with the way the process is set up? As to ensure ease of entry? I'm assuming it has a nice smooth interface and that does not allow for much complications.
So and we have actually been using this system since 2016 to collect all our to do all our household surveys. So we have tapped into that experience in terms of what we know and what we can share with the enumerators and best practices and so. Of course, for most persons though that we have employed, it is something completely new. So because it's not something that you'd use every day, it's not like your Facebook or your WhatsApp. So we had to make sure that the training was done, and after the training we had to make sure that persons were able to really use the system in an effective way that would make it useful, the data that's coming from the field useful for us and for the country as a whole.
So Harlim, the system has been set up by the administrators for that ease of collection and data, saving on time and efforts out in the field. But what are some of the challenges, though, Harlim, that's been experienced? Because naturally, it's still the process. It involves that interview element to it, and that comes with its own challenges, doesn't it, Harlim?
Well, certainly, right? And, you have the normal challenges with being able to locate residents at their home, we have processes in place so that if persons are not at home at the point of the visit, we leave a callback card, and we're appealing to the public to call back the enumerator. You know, there are persons who might refuse to take part in the census, and we're using this platform to encourage persons to participate, because it is for your benefit, the benefit of your children, the future of Grenada. As any concerned citizens, we want persons to partake. A lot of people may not know the importance of those questions that are being asked, you know. But I want persons to know that they serve multiple purposes for many different stakeholders, and we use this census as an opportunity to capture information on everyone in all aspects of life. You know, because there's power in information in terms of transforming the life of all Grenadians, and going forward, we want to be able to use this information for sound policy making, right? There is also well, as I said, there's also with the concern about COVID and persons being infected, right? So, and that is why we have strict protocols in place, and each enumerator and field staff, they are aware of that. It's actually part of the contract in terms of the code of practice. Right, so anyone defaulting on that could result in termination. So our officers, they wear a mask, right, and they have to maintain the 6 feet distance, and we're asking them also to conduct the interview outdoors in a private area, so in the veranda or in the yard, where no one else is around. And we are also asking the respondents to wear their mask when the interview is taking place.
Right.
Now, because of the spike in COVID, because we have to be flexible, because we have 2 modes of doing this census, and luckily for us, we have designed it in such a way that we can revert to the second mode. So one of the mode is the telephone interviewing mode, and because of what is happening with the spike, right now, the second wave, we are encouraging our enumerators to list and collect telephone numbers as much as possible, right, so that the interview can be conducted at a later time over the telephone. And that is important for us, and we are asking persons to please cooperate. This is not normal time, and doing this census has really been a huge challenge for us. I've been saying the other day to someone that it is 3 times as more work, you know, because we have to be planning and redesigning, and so it's so much meeting, so much long hours in trying to determine the best way and the most effective way of enumerating the entire population. So the least that we want from the public is their cooperation. The interview is long, as I said before.
When you say long, how many questions is it? Because that's why I want us to get to that, because because a census, why do you add that? Maybe share with us some of the types of questions, because I know, I've done census before, I've done it, and then there are times I start going, like seriously, why you need to know that? That's my business. And I know that can be some of the immediate responses and challenges, that the questions can sometimes seem a bit intrusive.
Yes. So the questionnaire is approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour. right? I don't want to say the number of questions because each question is not given to every person, right? It depends on who you are, because we have skip. So questions on fertility or so would not apply to men or persons not of the childbearing age, right? Likewise, questions on employment and question on employment and income would only apply to persons 15 years and older, right? So I just identified two major areas, right? And we also have information about the demography of the population in terms of age, sex, composition, religion, ethnicity. Also marital status, union status, relationship to the head of the household. Well, these days the head of the household in some instances may be difficult to decipher. So in cases where persons don't know who the head is, then there is who's the reference person?
Difficult how?
Well, there are some households that you go to and they do not. There isn't a clear identification as to who the head of the household will be. You know, there are cases where there might be dual headship in the home, right?
Interesting.
So, but a lot of the times it's the most senior person or the person that is the main breadwinner in the home.
Okay.
Right? But it's just in a few cases that there might be difficulties. So, but we do cater for that in terms of having a reference person that.
Let me ask Mr. Logie though, because COVID has its own ongoing challenges, and it's always a question of time. I mean, in 45 minutes, an hour of my time is a lot. Given that we're going digital, Mr. Logie, and even Harlim, maybe you can probably attend to it initially, and then your IT administrative guy can follow up on it. Has any consideration been given to making the platform accessible to me online, that I can decide, you know what, I get home, I have 45 minutes after 12 in the night, you know what, I just finished watch two Netflix series, I got some time to burn now, let me sit down and attend to this. Is that an option?
So I'll start first. That was seriously under consideration, but there is a lot of issues, technical issues in terms of doing that, which my colleague might be able to explain in terms of because a huge part of this census is a georeferencing of the population, of the households in the population, right? So if you go online, it is difficult for us to be able to georeference your location. Now the census information is not just used for census, right? It is used for us in statistics because the census allows us to develop this sample frame, so that for the next 10 years, we will be using that frame to do our sampling when we do any of our surveys. So it's a very, very important undertaking for us, knowing where the households are. So when we do this sampling, it is easy to locate, and it also helps us in terms of the reliability and the accuracy of what is being collected and what is being reported on the population, right? So I don't know if
Kishi? We're not hearing you, Kishi.
Hearing you, Kishi.
Sorry, hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the difficulties with doing that is, as Mr. Brizan rightfully said, we want to have a georeference census. However, not everyone is able to identify their location on a map. And because we understood that, it made it difficult for us to help with the identification of persons and their households. Another thing is, because the questionnaire is 45 minutes, persons may decide, I have an hour for lunch at work, so let me take that 45 minutes, and while I'm having lunch at work, do the questionnaire. Your workplace is not your home, so if we made it automatically ID your location, then it would ID your work, and you might have 4 or 5 persons who decide to do the same thing or something similar. And that would mean that we have 4 or 5 persons at GBN and doing the questionnaire in the lunch hour, and we would have the issue of GBN being identified as a residence.
But most the average household comes equipped with a fixed telephone service. And I'm almost certain from a history in telecoms, they can easily tell you the actual physical location, or even that's information that possibly can be shared maybe from Grenlec, from the other utility companies. They know exactly where each house is.
So what we have noticed, actually, interestingly, over the last few years, is that there have been a move, and especially for the newer households, away from having a fixed line. So most persons have cell phones. There may be 2, 3, 4, 5 cell phones in one household and no fixed line. As well as, while Grenlec has their information on residents, they would have the residents, but what we have realized is most likely that if there's an apartment building and you have 5 or 6 tenants, you may have 4 or 5 empty apartments as well.
Well, there's always going to be the anomalies.
And those things. So those are the things we wanted to avoid.
Right.
So we felt that the best approach was to have the enumerator list, and then you make an appointment with the enumerator. So when both of you have the time, you could begin the interview. And the system is set up in such a way that you may have 30 minutes today. So you start doing the interview, you do 30 minutes, and then you may need to come back another day to finish.
Okay.
So that is possible as well.
But I'm assuming going forward, I mean, those are things that can be taken into consideration. Greater collaboration between the census office and other utility operators in terms of that geo-referencing material.
Yes, definitely. If I can add to also Joseph.
Yes.
I know other countries, they do online censuses, right? For example, the US and Canada.
Yeah.
So the first mode is normally online. But the reason why this is easy for those countries as well, they already have all their households and so geo-referenced prior to the census, which is why it is important for us to do that now, to allow for any type of online survey. But also, the online questionnaire is normally short, right? And those countries can afford to have short censuses because they have very developed statistical system where they have a wide range of information on everybody in the population. Now, our censuses in the region is lengthy, right? And there are some very, very difficult concepts that the person administering the interview has to understand, and that is why training for us is very, very important, because you're talking about coding of employment and industry, right? Also the understanding of the household, the member of the household, understanding of residents, migration, right? The understanding of fertility. So it's important to ensure the quality of the information coming out, that a trained person, that is the best case, that a trained person conduct the interview for such a long census, because they are really difficult concepts and definition that the persons answering the questionnaire need to understand.
Thank you very much, Harlim Brizan, Director of the Central Statistical Office, and Mr. Kishi, Logie, the Systems Administrator. We'll take a quick commercial break, Grenada, and we'll be right back right here on To The Point. There are those who say they care, and then there is Jedi's Pharmacy, conveniently located at the front entrance of the Bruce Street Mall, right next to a Riser Credit Union. We offer premium quality products and services, and when you need us, we are there, offering you around-the-clock service, Mondays to Fridays, 7:30 to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 9 until 7 p.m., and Sundays, 10 until 2. At Jedi's Pharmacy, we show care with a beautiful smile. Call us today at 440-5342. The number again, 440-5342. Happy holidays from the management and staff of Jedi's Pharmacy. Thank you. Welcome back to The Point for today, Friday, January the 7th. Before we get back to my two guests, by the way, for information, reminding you that the Celebrity Reflection, yes, she said Celebrity Reflection, they're expected to make a call to Port St. George today. They should be pulling in at port, getting in the port at some, maybe within the next half an hour. And be reminded that while the cruise passengers are on island, they're as part of attempts to reduce on the intermingling between cruise passengers and locals, the Esplanade Mall would be off limits. So there be limited access to unvaccinated individuals. That's to the Esplanade side of the mall. However, the Bruce Street side of the mall remains open, fully accessible, including shopping areas, washroom facilities. It can be accessed via the Bruce Street Mall, either from one of the front entrance from a Grand Lake, or from by a riser, or from the car park from the reverse side. Thank you. Welcome back. Remind you the number on the inside, 435-2041. And my guest this morning from the Central Statistical Office is the Director and the Systems Administrator. Gentlemen, welcome back to the program. I think there's a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You are live.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Cadore. Greetings to you again.
Good morning to you, sir.
Listen, Mr. Brizan particularly. Can Mr. Brizan hear me? I'd just like to confirm that Mr. Brizan can hear me.
Harlim, can you hear the caller?
Can you hear me, sir?
Mr. Harlim?
It doesn't seem that you can hear me.
Are you hearing the caller?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Very well. Greetings, Mr. Brizan. I must indeed say that I'm waiting with bated breath to get the results of that census, that upcoming census. You know my reasons, I'm certain. Therefore, I wish you luck.
No. Oh, he's very light.
Pardon?
The color is very low. Not sure what is happening.
Ah, well, there we go. Anyway, I'll say what I have to say, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Cadore, but I hope that you transmit exactly what I say to the gentleman, all right? I wish them luck in the exercise, and I hope they collate all the information, the relevant information, as true and precise as possible, that the population will have a good idea of what is happening within our country. But I have two questions. One.
Not sure. Joseph?
Well, look, Mr. Cadore, I really like this gentleman to hear my question, so we'd have to leave it there.
Well, so the challenge is, whatever the challenge is, unless it has to be something with internet connectivity, because it seems to be coming and going. So.
But anyway, we won't waste time, because I'm afraid that what I transmitted may not be interpreted and so on, and I may not get the correct answers. So I'll leave it for another time, or probably later if this thing gets better. Have a nice day with you.
No problem, sir. 435-2041, that's the number on the inside, reminding you that you can post your questions, comments, or queries via the different social media platforms, Facebook, as well, and even our WhatsApp portal, and you can feel free to make your engagements there. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome back to the program. So we talk about the data collection. Is there any way to ensure the integrity of the information collected? And I'm going to go straight in form, and I'm talking now in terms of once collected, not what's collected, once collected, how do you ensure from a systems of an administrative end that the information that's been given Mr. Logie, it is safe, secure, and it remains just with the Central Statistical Office? Talk to us in terms of the security protocols that's involved in ensuring that the information remains secure.
Okay, so for that we have a number of things in place. Firstly, the devices that are used, they seem like regular devices. However, we do have some security software on there that helps protect the information, as well as the software that we use. Once the data is stored in, it's encrypted within the device. So you cannot plug in a flash drive or plug the device into another computer and copy the information out. That's not possible. From there, the information is sent to our secure servers, where the access to that is limited. Physical access to that is limited to a few people within the organization. Very few persons have access to that. But from there, the information once the information comes in from the field, it is now sitting on our secure servers. It's safe there, right? Persons who have access to that, the information from there, would be the direct supervisor to that enumerator and the administrative staff within the statistics division who is responsible for that group of supervisors. So we have a hierarchical structure in terms of who has access to the data at that point.
Harlim, what sort of measures is put in place so as to ensure that the information that's entered is as is a true reflection of that which is being provided by the respondents?
Yes, that is very, very important for us. It's actually part of our Statistics Act. In terms of the falsification of information is a major offense according to our Statistics Act, and the fine for that is $5,000 and 3 years in prison. So it's very, very severe, right? And Mr. Logie speak about the security in terms of the tablets, the device.
Yes.
Also, we have another security feature in terms of the legislation as well. And it is a serious offense to divulge individual level information. Information that discloses the identity of any respondent. And that is another major offense, which is also punishable with a fine of $5,000 and 3 years in prison.
Okay. We have a caller that's on the line. Good morning, caller. We lost the caller. 435-2041. For the purpose of those you call in, if you do call, it's possible I would allow you into the waiting room while the questions are being answered. So we have a caller that is on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Cadore. Happy New Year to you and your...
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Go ahead, please.
Two questions. 10 years ago, when they did the census, a young lady came to my house in Mount Moritz and I answered the questions. She also told me that people were avoiding her in houses, and I do know one of my neighbours refused to answer the door because some of the questions are quite personal, and probably people don't want to divulge certain things. But the other thing I want to say is I never really heard the results of the census 10 years ago. I don't know if it's on the government media. I don't know. I can't remember. But I didn't really hear much. And the second thing is people in the country who are not au fait with technology. The older people I'm talking about. I'm not being. I hope I'm not being rude now, but some people may not know how to use, technology, and hopefully, as you say, that 35 minutes or 40 minutes is quite a long time to be on the telephone. So all these things you've got to consider, haven't you? Will people have the patience to answer the questions? I'm only asking these questions because they're just cropping up as I'm in my kitchen here cooking. So.
Right.
Have a good day, dear. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Again, the caller highlighted one of the concerns we raised before, the time factor, 45 minutes, lengthy questionnaire. Somebody on social media, they were saying that they find some of the questions, and I did hint to that initially, that it seemed to be a bit personal. How many refrigerators do I have in my house? I'm probably thinking, boss, you're not the one that's working to mind me. Why you need to know how many refrigerators I have in my house? Huh?
Okay, so let me give some clarity to this, right? Now, census is an important exercise in national stock taking, and our concern is not just the number of persons, but also the household and the appliances is input that persons have is also important in assessing people's general living conditions. And it is actually a requirement of any population and housing census, throughout the region in particular, because it will show policymakers what will be required for persons in the population to achieve a decent standard of living. So we are not concerned about the name of the person who have those assets and appliances and amenities. We're not concerned about that, but we would want to make a general statement of a particular area in terms of general living condition. It could be a particular parish. It could be the entire country, because then you would know that then you'd be able to assess the needs of the population, because we want our aim is for sustainable development and leaving no one behind. Right? For census to be meaningful, it must look at the housing situation of the population, because household resides in buildings, right? So the amenities, the water, electricity, fuel, the type of sanitation, which speaks to the toilet facility, the garbage disposal, right? The information on the structure of the building is also very important in assessing resilience and for the country to be able to build more resilient structures in light of our susceptibility to natural disaster. So it also an important aspect of the population and housing census is to provide information to policymakers so that there could be safer housing for the population. Right. We have a caller that's hold from. We have a caller that's online. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes. Good morning.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Mr. Brizan said that anyone divulging the information on the census, and I guess he's talking about the people internally, would be dealt with. Now, I want to know if it would be an independent investigation and dealt with independently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Harlim? I didn't hear all of the question. So you said to the fact that we spoke about there in terms of maintaining the integrity of the data collected, there are strict penalties. He wants to know whether or not that process of addressing those whatever potential security breaches, if it's dealt with independently. If there's an independent body, exactly how is that process conducted? Well, if there's in terms of the breaches, and if there is a breach, we will have to bring this to the attention of the legal authorities. Right, so that is the only system that we have in place in terms of the government system.
Okay, so there's it becomes a legal matter, a matter that's taken up by law enforcement and not necessarily by the Central Statistical Office.
No.
Okay, so you have no control over that.
Well, we will certainly would have to provide the evidence, right?
Right.
And there should be concrete evidence that this person has breached that or committed that offense, right? So
there is the issue of the enumerators collection, whether the falsification of maintaining the integrity. What about the respondents? Is there any measure in place to ensure, if it's proven that, listen, you came to JC and JC says, well, me, all I have is a one-legged stool and a little black and white TV in my house?
It is, so let me say, it is very, very difficult to monitor what people respond in terms of and that is why we are encouraging persons to report the information truthfully, right? But in terms of the respondents, there is a legal provision for persons to partake in the census. So it's not, census is actually mandatory by law, right? It's actually based on the census regulations and the census. The Statistics Act, it is an offense for not partaking in the census.
Are there exemption clause though?
Not that I can think of. I haven't seen any exemption clause, right? So it is. But we focus, and most statistics offices worldwide focus on moral suasion and appealing to persons, good sense and good reasoning on the importance of partaking in the census. I know of some countries, even in the region, I think Cayman Islands, that actually enforce, right? So, but we think it's important to educate people and sensitize people on the importance of providing this information and showing them that is important for national development and explaining to them that being a citizen and a resident of this country, it is important. It is a civic duty, an important civic duty. If you see yourself as patriotic, then this is one of the activities that you can participate in to demonstrate your patriotism.
It's mandatory, they say. 10 minutes onto the hour, we have a call live on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Good morning to Mr. Cadore and the guests, Mr. Brizan and Mr. Logie. I'm pleased to get this explanation of the census process and see the good work that the officers in the Census Department have been doing. I just want to, it's kind of a question and possibly even a suggestion, depending on the answer to the question. My question is there any section or application or attention to the languages spoken by the population being censused? And we have, when we're describing a population, obviously we're describing them in terms of their culture, their history, and their plans for the future, as Mr. Brizan has intimated. The patois language is a language that many people in the country remember fondly. Some people still speak. Teachers have been learning and plan to teach this to interested students, and they have been interrupted by the COVID problems. But presumably one day COVID would leave us and teachers would be interested in teaching. So does the census have any section for people that speak the Cadore language. It is good to know the status of the language in the country, and if the status is changing, then our census would be able to show that if there's an appropriate questioning in the census.
Okay, thank you, caller. Harlim?
Any provision for that. But these things is important when we hear these things that we make a note of it for future survey undertakings.
435-2041, that's the number on the inside. It was 5 minutes onto the hour in the morning time. My guest this morning, in case you're just joining us from the Central Statistical Office, is the Director of Statistics, Harlim Brizan, and his Systems Administrator. We're running out of time, gentlemen. Security is going to be... what can you tell us? And I know you IT folks are quite particular as to what information you divulge. But what can you tell us in terms of the security system that is in place? I'm not talking about the front end now. I don't want back end. So at least the general public, folks who have an IT background, they have an appreciation in terms of the type of encryption, difference, and that sort of security protocol that is in place. Logie?
All right. Well, I'm not going to give too much detail.
Question to scratch in your head. I know you IT guys never like to give information.
What it is a security issue to give too much detail.
No, but I'm just talking about basic security parameters. What sort of encryption we use, front end, back end, the sort of security protocols. At least so somebody out there that has a pretty active security IT background can tell us, you know what, system is quite safe. Folks.
Yeah, well, so we have different levels of encryption, right? On the tablet, there is encryption that happens automatically within the software, right? I'm not going to divulge that, but the interviewer software, it encrypts the questionnaire once the information is collected and saved. So that is done there. On the what I would say is this, right? Our server is hosted on island, so it's only persons within the country that would be able to access it in the way that we have limited access or any data streams coming from outside of the country onto that server. Persons in the IT background would have a kind of understanding what I mean when I say that. Also, we have limited physical access to the server. We have limited access to the backups and data that is stored on the server. They are encrypted as well, and it requires multiple forms of authentication, and so to access that, and very few persons have access to that.
I'm feeling a bit better already. So I'm getting to say that there's end-to-end encryption, end-to-end encryption.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I know, that was your toughest question you've asked in all of your life. I know IT guys, they ain't going to divulge nothing, but you actually done we have just a few minutes. I want you to use it to, you keep saying while there is the legal element of getting it is mandatory, but you use moral suasion. I'm going to give it the last 2 minutes to take the opportunity to appeal to the better judgment of Grenadians as to why they they should participate in the upcoming census.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. And so let me just continue to solicit the.
Oh, by the way, before you go on now, question coming: are there intentions to number houses?
Definitely, for our purposes, I can tell you that is an important aspect of the census, because when we do any census, we number all houses. Now, the difference with this census is that there is a georeferencing with the numbering. So nobody would be confused going back to that particular household in the future. That that sometimes you could number one way, and then when you go in the field, the other person might interpret the number differently. But now we have the georeferencing linked to the number, so that is an important feature of the census for us.
An important element of it is in terms of getting persons when they are economically, they will be asked questions about their salaries and their earnings.
Yes.
But it is done in terms of range, isn't it? Not the specifics of it.
Yeah. So in terms of income, that is also a very important question, and a lot of Grenadians are reluctant to share their income. But it's one way of us being able to determine poverty levels, right, from the census. So we encourage persons to report the income accurately. So to make it easier, we give salary ranges. So we don't ask for the exact amount, but we do give salary ranges as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's exactly 10 o'clock in the studios. We've exhausted our time. Thank you, Harlim Brizan, the Director of Statistics within the Ministry of Finance, and the Systems Administrator, Mr. Kishi Logie. And I do apologize for the last question I asked you. Actually, no, I'm not apologizing. But I saw you toughen up, you scratch your head, and you offered me a response. Harlim, we know we have to continue this conversation. The process, though, did we say when it ends? I'm not sure if we did.
No, well, legally, based on the law, the period is up till the end of April. But we are trying to push ahead to finish even before that because of the current situation, the current climate with COVID.
Okay, but legally it ends at the end of April. Well, thank you, gentlemen. All the best to you, and I wish you, I hope you get great cooperation in the data collection process. For our listeners and our viewers, this is as far as we can take you on to the point. Indeed, it was a pleasure being here with you this morning, wherever you are. Those of you that's on social media, we say thanks for being part of the program. Until then, so long, everybody. Programming wise, I'll be back with you on television at 11 o'clock. At that time, I'll be speaking with Maverick Joseph from inside of the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association. Yes, in case you missed it, they are back, and we'll be talking about some of the services that the agency offers. Until then, so long, everybody.